Hey there, it's the next chapter in the alteration, the profound alteration of this Royal Regiment of Scotland kilt. Um, so again, I'd pressed it. I'd pressed the end pleats so that they're knife pleats facing in, because we're aiming for the long haul here, and we're turning the cloth, as I said earlier, the cloth in older kilts tends to want to do this, so I'm getting the jump on it. And frankly, it's gonna work out better that way, just from experience. So again, what I had done was I'd moved, by opening and robbing a couple of pleats, I've moved the center of the inside apron over half a set, and that's the new middle. And we can see now that when I bring it to here, to my carefully pre-marked chalk lines, that I have a nice deep apron pleat, and I'm going to flip that over in a second to show you. And pinched a muscle in my back last week, and fortunately I can work standing up because the discomfort is quite remarkable. Okay, so flipping it over, we can see we do have these cutouts, but they will be accommodated by the canvas that's going to come across. So this whole area will be stabilized so that this isn't going to flop over anything else, but you'll see that again later. And I've shaped the edge of the inside apron, and if you look inside very quickly, that nasty glue that we couldn't do anything about, there's some of it, there's the rest of it. So that will be out of sight. And so from here, I'm gonna start showing this seam, but we're gonna do this backwards to new construction, because new construction, of course, we start on the left hip. We start with the first pleat, make an accommodation for the buttonhole, and then sew this way. But when we're doing an alteration like this, where we're lengthening the fell, I'm going to start on the right hip, because as we can see, the cloth, you see how the cloth is laying over like that? If I start on this side and I start sewing in this direction, there's a very, very good chance that I'm going to get that happen, because I've sewn through the cloth. That's not going to happen if I start on this side and sew in reverse order. I'm also going to sew the entire length of the pleat, because as I mentioned earlier, the top of this seam is now compromised. And then when I get to here, this between the first and second pleat, of course, this is where the new buttonhole is going to go. But as we can see, fortune has conspired against us, because that cutout is right smack in the middle of where the buttonhole is going to be, but we have that extra cloth from the top, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to graft a patch on here, which is not going to be visible from the outside or the inside, but that patched cloth will be visible when we look at the hole in the buttonhole in the lining, and it'll present a finished appearance as opposed to this. And then once we've done that, we'll flip it over. We'll thin out the back. I mean, this is one way to do it. And if you'd had a piece of canvas that had fit exactly in that, I guess it wouldn't be bad. But I'm going to do the more typical sort of fish, like so, and then which presents a better, smoother feeling across the back. Once that's done, we steek it, and then we canvas it. And from then on, it's pretty much like normal kilt construction. That once that's done, then we're going to do the outside apron and then the top band and carry on. I could say one thing. Somebody asked a question about the proper selecting the proper color of thread, and because I've noticed, and you've probably noticed as well, that if you're color matching and you find the thread that's actually the same color as the cloth, for some reason it winds up being visible. Don't know why. The default seems to be, the trick to that seems to be to choose a color which is even slightly darker. For some reason, that seems to make it much harder to see. The other question, which wasn't asked, is also selecting the right sort of thread, the right weight of thread. Now this is a mungo. This is cloth which is sort of the right weight and handling characteristics of the finished garment, but it's cheaper. And this is the sort of thing we practice on, in this case, a pair of trews. But we want to choose a weight and also a material of thread which isn't going to damage the fabric. Far too often when I'm working on kilts, I see thread which is far too heavy. The thing is we want, in the event of great action, shall we say, we want the seam to fail rather than the cloth to fail. So for something like this lighter cloth, I have a piece of tweed. You may have seen that tweed that I've got. I'm going to use, I mean, I should back up a bit. Oftentimes we're stuck dealing with the thread that we can find, and there's an awful lot of polyester out there, and it can be all right. But in the finer work, we want to use silk. 100% cotton and silk, because again, if no other reason, I want that seam to fail before the cloth fails. So when I'm working with tweed, I'm going to use machine silk. And of course, I can't remember the weights of the threads off the top of my head. So go forth and experiment, I guess, is what I'm saying. In any case, there we go. So that's that up to date. I'm going to carry on with this, working from the standing position. And then as soon as I've got something new to share with you guys, I will. Thank you, and carry on.